Welcome to Triple Threat, the podcast with Jermel President, where it's good news and good vibes all the time, baby.
When we left Portugal to come play with you in your system, Jermel, it was the best thing for Shane because you pushed him to do other things outside his box.
You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Jermel President and on Twitter at President Jermel. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast as I'll be bringing you a new interview every month. Hey, what's up, guys? Coming up next, we got Dwayne Grace. Coach Grace coached me at the College of Charleston while he was there. Great guy, nickname Amazing Grace. Her stories about him breaking backboards and whatnot. So I was excited to play for this guy and learn a lot from him as well. In our interview, we talked a lot about the transition from high school to college and what it takes, even him being an assistant coach, some things he's seen from my young athletes that needed to be addressed. So we had a great conversation about the change of times and what athletes need to do in order to be great at what in their craft. All right, so let's get into the interview.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good, Coach. I'm good. Look, I appreciate you. Appreciate your time for coming on. We had a lot of.
Sure, man. You family, bro. We got to do whatever we got to do. They say teamwork make the dream work.
That's what's up.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So, how long you been doing the podcast?
Doing the podcast since October was the first one. Earl Grant was the first episode.
Okay.
I'm doing my TV show for 5-6 years.
Okay.
Where I interview businessmen and people out of the community and just kind of
right.
Bring that light to other organizations. You know what I'm saying, like rape victims and like all that other stuff. Just kind of mix it up. But
I got you.
But right now, what we're trying to do is Day Foundation has been that soundboard for the community, for athletes and parents, and interviewing former college players, former college coaches, agents, things like that. Helps them give that knowledge to the people. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And this will be all audio. This won't be video. This is all audio for the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hold on. I'm gonna try to cut you up a little more. All right, I got you.
You got me?
Yeah, I got you, man.
All right. So yeah, this is what we do. In some of our interviews, Coach, a lot of people that we talk to, a lot of them give props for be recruited by you. So I say, even though Kresse was a good coach, but he ain't no X and O's without the Jimmys and Joes. So
exactly.
your presence, your contribution, you know what I'm saying? You got to share that torch just as anybody else for getting those solid players, you know what I'm saying, at the college so Kresse can coach them.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. I think he gave me the latitude, or the rope, if you want to call it, to bring in the kids that we thought would fit our program and fit the mission, that we were on. And, I knew we had to bring in some local talent, and the local talent was right there at our feet. We just had to recruit them. We had to go in and get them. Right. And I think you guys were the catalyst, when you look back at the success that the college had. I think it started back when Kresse got there, but I think you guys took it to a whole nother level when you talk about the NCAA and NIT and things like that. But it's the players, man. Coach will tell you that. All the X's and O's and all of that stuff, it comes down to players, making plays and making the plays to win games.
For sure.
So it was a team effort. I made sure I put the right people in place for not only myself, but for Coach and Greg Marshall and all the other coaches that were there played a very integral part in getting all those guys there.
For sure. So, Coach, while we get into it, part of our, story is just like getting background from, former players and where it first started. So, like, you're from Bennettsville. That's your hometown where you grew up at?
Yeah, that's home. It's a little small. Go ahead.
Take us back to, like, the parks and recreation. Like, when you first started playing, like middle school, take us about that. Talk to us about that and how it all started.
Well, you growing up in a small town like Bennettsville, it's not a lot to do. And, basketball, every kid had a goal in their yard, and it was easy to go outside and pick up that basketball. I started playing probably seriously around 8 or 9. I got into the park and rec, and I'll never forget those were some really good days of development. A lot of the coaches were dads, so they didn't have a lot of experience in how to develop players, but they knew how to bring kids together and develop a team, but it took off kind of from there. And then I got in junior high. That's what they called it back then. It wasn't middle school. It was junior high.
Right.
And I got a coach. He actually was an attorney, and but he took me under his wing. His name was Greg Onesi, and he's still a good friend of mine, an attorney in my hometown. And he gave me the name Amazing Grace, and it just took off from there.
Wow.
And by the 10th grade, I was starting on the varsity, and I only lost one game at home in 3 years. So the people in Bennettsville, they got their share of some good basketball, not losing but one game in 3 years. And then we went to the state championship my junior year. I had some really good players on my team. We had 8 or 9 guys go to Division I from that team. So it wasn't just me, but all just coming from a small town with not a lot to do just kept me a little more focused, kept me within the lines. Mm-hmm. And I thought basketball was my ticket. I've always used the ball as a vehicle.
For sure.
To open doors and take me a lot of play. I went all over the country, man, all over Europe and everywhere, just chasing that ball. So
for sure.
I try to show kids the way to do it, especially trying to get your education paid for. Use that basketball, use the talent that God gave you.
For sure. And you made a good point. A lot of people talk about that when they first started. It's always, talking to Earl Grant, Ed Barfield was his, it's always that one person that can really find value in a kid and invest in them. And they don't know how much, kids appreciate that when they look back at that and they thank them for doing that.
Exactly.
So in high school, you really started to make things happen. Talk about the recruiting wars. Why, why CFC?
Well, actually, what happened was I started getting recruited we started going to a camp called BC All-Star Basketball Camp. It was down in Tipton, Georgia, and I went as a freshman. And I think I put myself out there. I made the top 20 at the 5-star, the BC. It was a cousin to 5-star, put it like that. And I made the top 20, and it kind of took off from there. Just kind of started getting recruited from all over the country. And I had Cozell McQueen on my high school team, who was the NC State championship on the championship team in NC State. So we would have the ACC, the SEC, in our games probably every night.
Wow. In
Bennettsville, South Carolina, you would have Bill Foster, Lefty Drizel, and Al Valvano sitting together almost, So we really brought we really took recruiting to the next level. And it came down to really what happened on my 5 visits. I was actually going to go to Maryland. Maryland was my choice. And on my visit, I really didn't have a lot of guidance when it came to recruiting. You figure a kid from a small town like Bennettsville getting letters from all over the country, you really need someone who's been through those kind of avenues to kind of help guide you. And I
Right.
was kind of on my own because even my head coach had never really witnessed what was going on. So the College of Charleston was actually recruiting another kid on my team. So they really weren't recruiting me because I was really more going Division I.
Right.
So anyway, I didn't sign with Maryland early. I told them I wanted to sign late, and I'm gonna share this with you because this is really important.
Right.
If you know where you want to go, and they want you, and you want them, then what are you waiting on?
Right.
You know, and I felt like I needed to wait because I wanted to sign in the spring, but there was no legitimate reason for that. So I remember Sherman Dillard, who was the assistant coach at Maryland, who was recruiting me. I remember him calling me to tell me that they were pulling the scholarship and they were giving it to Jeff Atkins because I wasn't going to sign with him. And it was a blow, but it was reality. It's a business.
Right.
You know, if you don't want to come and you're holding off, they got other kids that want to come. Okay. So at that point I had lost Maryland. So now I'm waiting in the spring, and I think the opportunities got less and less because people were signing kids early, just like they do now. So, but I was out there, and then Maryland told George Mason about me because Joe Harrington, who's the head coach at George Mason, played at Maryland under Lefty Driesell. So he gave him a phone call, and Rick Barnes was the assistant at George Mason at that time, who's the head coach at Tennessee now. He's a great friend of mine and mentor. And he came down, flew in on private jet, came down to Bennettsville, picked up myself and actually Kozel's brother, flew us up to George Mason. We looked at it, we liked it, and we signed. So I went to George Mason my freshman year. I didn't play a lot. But I did develop. I thank George Mason for what they did, but I just felt like I needed to get closer back to home. So Rick Barnes, actually, he said he found out I was transferring. I was even looking at Winthrop and places like that, you know, because I knew them.
Right.
But he said, if you're going to transfer and you're going to transfer to try to play in your next semester, why wouldn't you look at the College of Charleston? He said, that's the best program down there, and they got the best coach. He said, and I can tell you two things that's going to happen. You're going to win a ton of games, and you're going to become a better player. That's verbatim. Okay? So I called Coach, and I had never been to Charleston. I mean, living in Bennettsville, I'm 2.5 hours away.
Wow.
We always went north. We went because that's where all my people were in Maryland, D.C., New York.
Right.
So I never visited Charleston. So I came down on a visit, and I felt like this is a place that not only I might want to go to school, I might even want to stay here, you know, at some point in my life, you know. And I used to tell kids that when I was recruiting them, always look at a place like you might want to stay there when you graduate. Okay, so take that into consideration when you're making your decision.
In this timeout message, we got Barrington Huntley.
Amateurism, you know, when you get certified by the NCAA, you have the academic certification. That's kind of what we just went over. But then you have the amateurism component as well. And amateurism, all it's making sure is that a student athlete hasn't professionalized themselves and isn't accepting money to play sports. So it's a series of questions that will be asked when the student registers. You know, they want to know what teams you've been on, have you signed any professional contracts, that kind of stuff. And I can go ahead and tell you that 94% of students that come through our certification process don't have any issue with amateur. You know, it's a very small percentage. Just making sure that they're not accepting any money above actual necessary expenses for their participation in sports.
Now let's get back to the interview.
now I look back. I mean, my numbers retired. I graduated. I worked there for 10 years. It couldn't have got any better
Right.
than that. And Rick Barnes was a big part of that, you know. So, you know, you count your blessings, Jermel, and you put people in your life that, you know, that can take you places. I mean, you don't use people, but I have people on my team that really care about where I'm going and where my life ends up, you know, and I share those same feelings with a lot of the kids that I've dealt with or I've been a part of their life.
Right.
You know, so you take these things and run with them, and you never know who's going to be impacting in your life when you meet them. You just don't know. So you always have to treat people with a lot of respect and never judge people by, you know, what you see. You got to get to know a person before you can judge them.
And you made a good point, Coach, about you know, and for the audience that's listening, and that's the main reason why we have these conversations, because that loophole, that decisions you made, that you know, it could have been, you know, a game changer, you know, for
no question.
So, but then again, we're talking about the value in the bag of rice. If you're a $6 bag of rice, you can't be sold in Piggly Wiggly. You could be sold, you know, that sells in Whole Foods. So, you know, when you're talking about the value of a player and how to position himself in school, and you said it too, like you liked Maryland, but did you think about the playing style versus the comfortability? Because that's, you know, all the players I talk to, Coach, when they say I went to college because Dwayne Grace, like, you know what I'm saying? Father figure, he made me feel comfortable, and you know, so and that's what I'm trying to get players to not consider when they're choosing colleges, because like you said, it's a business. You got to you got to learn to be comfortable, uncomfortable.
Exactly.
So that was huge. What you said in that story is huge, and players need to hear that.
Right. Well, you know, I felt like I could compete with those guys, especially going to the camps in the summer. You know, I didn't feel like they were more talented. I felt like they were a little more developed, though, fundamentally.
Sure.
That's where I saw the game change a little bit. I just wasn't sound. I was athletic. I could jump out the building. I had a lot of guard skills in high school, and I think that's what attracted those schools. But at the end of the day, you're right. You really need to look at coaching staffs. You need to look at style of play. You look at your teammates. You look at where you are on the depth chart. Look at the coach's stability. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that I would, you know, when I'm working the job, I got to be careful that I don't let out all my secrets. But but to a young man, you really need to look at all of those variables to make sure you get the right place. And that's why a lot of kids end up transferring. Because they haven't picked the right place. You know, and I can go on and on about that, how many kids end up in the wrong place. But, you know, again, you go back to the bag of rice analogy. If you're talented, you know, your talent will find somewhere. You know what I mean? And don't be afraid to step out of the box a little bit.
Especially
you know, I think when I talk to you about
what you say, Coach? Yep.
You got it? All right. Yeah, I think I was talking a little bit about, you know, the decisions I made. It's about recruiting. And, I just felt like some of those decisions I made, even though some of them weren't the best decisions, in the end, I think it made me a better man.
For sure.
Even to this day. Doing things, meeting different people, going to different places, it puts you in a position when you're an adult to say that you did it your way. You know
Right.
what I mean? And you don't look back. You just don't.
Right.
So George Mason, even till this day, Carolyn Marsh is the secretary of George Mason. She was there in 1983. Till this day, I can pick the phone up and call her, and she'll say, Dwayne Grace, just like that,
Right.
and those are the relationships. It's about relationships.
It's all about
At the end of the day, it's all about relationships, So everybody I meet, I want them to hopefully have a good taste in their mouth when they leave, in their encounter with me. So that every day, if something is not right, I try to fix it.
Right.
And I was talking about when we lost each other. When Coach Kresse hired me, he hired me to not only be a recruiter and a staple in the program, but someone that can make the right decisions when it came down to certain things. I didn't have to bring everything to him because I knew his thoughts. I knew his thoughts, and I knew the way he wanted to run the program. So I could make that decision of recruiting that kid, or I could make the decision that this is the kid I want to bring in. Or they're different analogies, but my point is, try to solve the problem instead of bringing it and making it a bigger issue.
Right.
Right.
So, when we talked about Coach Kresse as far as, his coaching styles and in the life lessons you learn about having that 7-13 time, like just different things that he implemented. What were some of the nuggets that you obtained from, being in that environment, and how did you apply it to your life?
Well, I mean, when you talk about Coach Kresse, I mean, there's one word probably comes to mind more than anything else. It's preparation.
For sure.
The time spent. And, I was listening to, there was a football coach on, I can't remember his name, but I mean, if we weren't talking, it'd be right on the tip of my tongue. But he talked about trust with coaches, trust with players. He talked about not having internal issues, on the team that can hamper or hinder your success. And what Coach Kresse tried to do, he tried to make sure everybody was on the same page, whether it was the trainer, the film guy, the guy driving the bus. It was a lot of preparation that went into making the ship sail. And what I think, one of the things I still, to this day, if I'm in the gym and I'm working with clients or whatever I'm doing, I pride myself on being on time and being prepared. Okay, so I'm going to go over my training schedule that I'm going to implement. I'm going to know his name, big time. I'm going to greet them, and from the moment they come in that door to the moment they leave, they get all my attention. And that's the way Coach Kresse was. He's talking to you, you better believe he was talking to you.
For sure.
Okay,
For
he
sure.
was right in your face, looking right in your eyes, and making sure you heard every word he said, and vice versa.
For sure.
And then the punctuality thing, we didn't want to do anything present. The meeting was at 10 o'clock, and someone would repeat the same thing over and over and over. So, the organizational skills, the preparation, the work, you got in the work. If you got high expectations, then they better meet the work ethic.
For sure.
or it won't work. It just doesn't, and I've seen that not only as a player, but even out here in the business world or even working with kids. If your expectation is you want to be a Division I, whatever, collegiate athlete on a scholarship, then your plan, your daily routine has to implement that. I mean, it has to show that that's where your goals are.
Right.
You got to put the work in.
You got to put the work in.
And if not, somebody else will do it. Right, yeah. While you sleeping, somebody working. I've always heard that, and that's true. Not saying that you got to get up at 6 a.m. every day and go crazy, but you got to get it in. You got to plan. You got to have a plan in place.
Hey, what's up, guys? Check this out. If you're coming into the Charleston area, or maybe leaving out the Charleston area, and you want to avoid long lines and be greeted by friendly, sweet people, go check out Mark over at Avis and Budget Car Rental at 7685 Northwoods Boulevard. When you go see Mark and you mention Triple Threat Podcast, you receive 30% discount on your rental. They also offer compact to large SUVs and vans to rent with quick, easy transaction. And check this out, and limited mileage on most rentals. So give Mark a call at 843-572-3190. Don't forget to mention Triple Threat Podcast. So, Coach, and then you played, you had a great career. Did y'all win any championships there during your tenure?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were District 6 champion. That was the district then. It's what they call the conference. We won the conference every year. We went out to Kansas City. We participated in the NAIA championships at Kemper Arena. I was actually just talking about, I had a lady on the phone yesterday from Kansas City, and we talked for an hour because that's where we used to go. Wow. To play the championships. We were out there a few times when I was a player, played against Rodman, with Southeast Oklahoma, and there was some other, Terry Porter was out there with Wisconsin, Stevens Point. There were some really good players at that level. And, I just look at, the experience. It was a great experience, during my time. You are I want to just say this, your time is your time. Things change. If I came along now, it would be different. Totally. but that was the time I was in, and I enjoyed it all. I wouldn't change a thing if I had to. But I also believe it goes back to a little bit style of play. For
sure.
Of course, at the college, Coach Kresse was a little more control when you were on a lot of sets. I think when you guys came along, like I said, about the time frame, we thought we needed to allow the players a little more freedom, to exert their talents, so to speak. And I think you would see the benefits of that when you look at players like Anthony Johnson and some of those other kids who got opportunities afterwards, after basketball. Allowing those guys to play their game, I think they were seen. They were seen a little more. And then, of course, going to the NCAA appearances gave a lot of guys that window to show their talent. So, but again, the time that you're in means a lot.
That system was the most frustrating, effective system I've ever seen. You know what I mean? As a freshman, because we talk about players talk about all the time. You said it earlier about Mason. You had talent, but the skill set was low. And I think in Coach Kresse's system, he needed talent to make his system work, but you had to think the game. Your IQ had to be totally off the charts. And one thing I realized, what I figured out, is that if you want to score, it's like in life. Right? If you want to score, help somebody out. Set a pick. Right. Because once I set a pick, you're gonna go with that, and I'm open every time.
It's gonna open you up. Right. Well, I tell kids now, if you set me a good screen, you might be the one getting the ball.
all day.
That's possible, you know. So Kresse's system, and it's a winning system, no doubt. You know, there's no doubt about that. And you had to be, like you say, cerebral in a way where, because I actually, Jermel, to be honest with you, I didn't know if it was going to work for me there when I got there.
The system?
Because I said, my God, I mean, I got a book that was probably about 200 pages. It had set plays, out of bounds plays, special situation, you name it.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is going to be another course I got to take.
Right.
You know, and do I want to think this much? I have never thought this much out here on the court.
Right.
But repetition, practice and repetition, you'll get it.
Right.
If you got brains and you can think, and those are the type kids we brought in, players that, you know, could handle what we were giving them. And if you bought in, you had to buy in.
That's the key word. That's the key word.
Right.
A lot of players
You had to buy in.
They weren't receptive. They weren't receptive to the discipline.
Right.
They didn't want to buy in. That's why it didn't work for them.
Right. It won't work for you if you don't. You know, it's a team effort. You know, again, teamwork makes the dream work, and you're gonna have to do what's required from you. You know, give all you got, and he gives all he has to give, and we do it as a team. I'm gonna tell you this, man, and I don't say this to many people. There were nights when we would go to play teams where I felt like we were already up 10 with the group we had.
Wow.
Walking in the building with yourself, Johnson, Delaney, Connor, Weber, Johnson. I mean, it was. Yeah, I could look at the fear sometime on the opponent's faces,
Wow.
And some of their fans knew it was going to be a tough night when the college came in. You know, so we would walk in, and like I said, I wouldn't say this to everybody. I felt like we were already up 10. It was our game to lose, you know, versus, you know, theirs to win. It was our game to lose if we didn't play our game.
That's
and
interesting.
You can recall that. We were out of Southeast Louisiana, and things didn't go right, and you see what happened. Right. You remember that, right? So again,
but things didn't go right because we got staked the night before. That's why things didn't go right.
And we broke the system. See, the system was in place,
right?
And we did something to break up that monotony of how we did things.
That's
and
awesome.
if you do that, that's what can happen.
That's
awesome. Right. So
I mean, with a sacrifice, but it was a good sacrifice. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, it learned, some guys learned a valuable lesson. Don't shake up the system. Right. Just do what you're supposed to do, and it'll work out. Because, you know, I just remember that night, and you know, I recruited all you guys, so I knew, you know, where we all came from. You know what I mean? And it didn't have to be that way, and I think that happened for a reason. It's Jermel, and you'll relate to this. There's some basketball gods out there.
For sure.
Okay. And they overlook the whole thing. The whole thing is being viewed by the basketball gods, and if you do things the way they're supposed to be done, the gods will look out for you. They'll do for you if you do for them, but if you don't. And you know, it's almost like karma. Right. You know, it'll come back and bite you if you don't follow the you know, the right protocol. For sure. And that was a small lesson to learn, but it's a life lesson. We all remember that. We ain't gonna never forget it.
Never forget.
But it was one night, one day, one game, but valuable lesson.
Valuable lesson.
So as a coach and everything, and not only that, I think it really took Coach Kresse back. It really knocked him off his rocker too, because this is his group. This is my team. Right. This is my family. This is my family. Right. Let's put it like that. We spent more time together, than we did with our families. Right. So when something like that happens, it really knocks you back. And I felt it. It was heartfelt.
It was tough
to him. Yeah, man. I mean, you guys probably don't know how it made him feel.
I didn't thought about it.
To him.
I didn't thought about it that way. I didn't thought about it.
It had never happened to him before, nor did he ever think that it would happen. You know, like that someone that would defy the order, you know, and more or less like a quote unquote sit in. But that's all I'll say to that.
For sure.
But again, you know, as we look back, we take those things and we use them. We use them now to help somebody else,
For sure.
not make that same mistake, So, but anyway, man, this is good stuff. And, I hope, there's an audience that can listen and hear some of these things that can help them in some way, and Jermel, I know this has been a little rocky trying to get me here on the phone, but I'm a phone call away. I really am.
For sure.
Anytime, I can help you and any of my players, man, they know they can call me, and the one thing that I did, I lost everybody's phone numbers. I got a new phone, and the people, when they did my numbers, I didn't have them saved. But I did. I had them saved in my Gmail, but I didn't have those passwords and stuff. So I lost a lot of the kids' numbers. So I'm going to have Patricia try to get me all those players' numbers back so I can stay in touch with them.
Right,
I like to stay in touch with you guys. I like to see you. I like to see what you're doing. I like to see your families, and that's what it's all about, Jermel. It was a total picture. It wasn't just basketball.
Right.
I was hoping that all you guys would be very successful in everything you do.
And I want to ask you that, Coach, and before I let you go, in recruiting and dealing with families and going to homes, and most of them were, like you say, you knew our background. Some of us didn't have father figures or didn't have secure families, so we were looking, to College of Charleston, or just someone that we can just say call home or talk to. What were some of the things that you would consider besides talent when you were looking to fill those spots at the college?
Well, you go back to Scout's honor, if you want to say, about integrity and, being accountable and being honest and things like that. I would try to get to know the kids as best I could by phone. We only had one contact by phone, and I had 3 contacts in person. So you had to make a pretty good decision about who you were going to spend the next X amount of years with, and not only that, you're representing an institution, a city, and that's the way I looked at it. The kids we bring in, because I was a player there, so I knew where the college sat as far as, how people looked at us, as players and what we represented. So I had to make sure we looked at the total picture. I needed guys that were going to be stand-up guys that could represent the school and speak on the school properly. I mean, we would go places, Mel. You knew it. People want to talk. They want to talk about your school. They want to talk about your success. And we had to have spokesmen, if you say, out there that really promote our program. So you weren't only a player, you were a promoter. You were promoting the program if you were out there in uniform.
Right.
So the parents, a lot of the kids, again, I go back to time and error or time and score. Some of the kids, their fathers weren't there. And I felt, I wasn't a father figure, but I felt a duty,
for sure,
to help this kid in areas maybe where he needed it, where we're lax some, and I think the moms also felt that way, felt comfortable with Coach Kresse and myself and our staff that we were going to do right by their sons, and I took a lot of pride in that. And to this day, if I see them moms, I hug them just like I hugged them back in the 80s and 90s, because I did exactly what I said. I didn't have to lie. I didn't have to lie about anything. Charleston, I felt like, Jermel, if I could get you to Charleston, you're going to have a hard time leaving. Right. I was going to make it real hard on you to say no, and some kids I recruited, I knew they weren't going to sign with, but I might get them later.
Right.
Okay. They might not like where they're going, and they might pick their phone up, and some of them did. Coach, they would call me, and I knew exactly who they were.
Right.
I said, like, whether it was Ken Ward, Carl Thomas, you name them, I recruited those kids out of high school.
You recruited Carl
And
Thomas?
yeah,
I didn't know you recruited
out of
Shay.
Tampa, out of Tampa Prep for
I didn't,
sure. He'll
I
tell
didn't
you.
know that. I
Shoot,
didn't know
man, I
that.
recruited him hard.
For real?
Yeah, and Joe Finland was his coach, and ended
He
up going to
went to Western
ended up
Kentucky.
exactly, and called me back. And when he called, I told Kresse who called. Man, we was on him like hot sauce.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Shake came on back, and made a big difference in the program. Those kids were steps above. All you kids were steps above where the program was almost. I thought you were next level players that we had to get to compete against Georgia Tech or Wake Forest or you name them. We had kids who could compete with those guys.
In this timeout message, we got Barrington Huntley.
That's the plan right now. So for students enrolling next year, the year after, they have a lot of flexibility that I kind of went over earlier. But the plan is to go back to normal. I will say when it comes to the test score right now, there is it's called the Standardized Test Score Task Force that has been put together. And that is going to look at whether there needs to be any adjustments or potential elimination of the test score requirement from NCAA legislation altogether. So that's something to keep an ear out for, just to see if that's going to change. Nothing has come out of the group yet. There's been a few meetings, but once something does come out, for sure, definitely we can get that communicated and kind of be looking for that. We'll see.
Sure. Now let's get back to the interview.
So that was big, man. You brought back a lot of memories. We start talking about Tampa. Boy, I want to move to Tampa.
Yeah.
I want to live in Tampa. I don't know. I told my wife, I said, boy, at the end of the day, I might want to live down here.
Right.
I really love going to visit Tampa, and he wasn't the only kid we recruited down there. There were some other kids out of Orlando, and John Leslie was from Lake City, Florida. So we got down into Florida. Carol Dawson was from Jacksonville. So I tried to make some inroads in some areas that we really weren't in.
Right.
Ken Ward was from Alabama, man. We weren't in Alabama. You know what I mean? And
Right.
we got a kid out of Carver High School. That was big.
You made a good point right there, because kids do come back, and the reason why when College of Charleston recruited me before I went to Folk Union, I was like, I don't want to go to the College of Charleston because Wisconsin was recruiting me. My grandfather died, my uncle passed. I'm like, I want to stay home. And I remember
come home.
You and Kresse came to my house, and we walked in that sat down there, and I was like, I'm going there, man.
I'm going there. And that was a good decision, Mel, because you were a home product. You and Melvin were two kids that we really wanted in the program. We really worked hard, and Coach, he put me in the right position. You had a good guy there, man. Earl's still down there.
Yep.
Right. He's still down there somewhere. I see him every now and then.
Yep.
And, and who was your athletic director back then?
I want to say it was Earl. It was Earl. Earl was at too. Yeah, it was AD and the coach.
Okay, I got you. Right. Yeah. So I just remember all those relationships, man. They put us in the right position to recruit you guys. They didn't keep us away. Some coaches won't allow you to get in and recruit their kids. The door was open, man. They say, look, we want to see some of these kids go to the College of Charleston. We got an institution right here. And, you did good by that, man. I think your mom and all your family, you look back at all that support you had, bro.
Yes, sir.
Come on now. Right.
Yes, sir.
That made a big difference. And not only what you did then, but what you're doing now. You know what I mean? You were present. So you didn't leave. Those kids know who you are. People in Charleston know who you are. That means a lot. So
thanks for that, Coach. One quick before I let you go, Coach. I know you got to go, but I want you to tell the up and coming coaches out there that wants to get into collegiate coaching. Tell them, give them some tidbits that can help them, and also identify what their role is. You said it earlier about building that relationship so Coach Kresse can trust you, so you don't have to take everything to him. Identify that assistant coach role, so because it can be conflicting if you don't know your role, you don't understand where you need to be in the situation. So just briefly explain that, Coach.
Right. Well, I think young coaches today need to absorb first a lot of knowledge from different coaches. Seek out all the basketball intelligence you can get where you're ready to take on a position. You know, I'm not saying that you can't get there and learn, but a coach nowadays, he's wearing so many different hats. I think it's up to you to kind of get yourself prepared for the job. Now, if he wants you to be a recruiter, what Coach Kresse did, he allowed us to play a part in every aspect, okay, whether it was scouting, recruiting, coaching, practicing, practice plan. Coach did it all. So he prepared us for anywhere we needed to go. I can tell you that. When I left Charleston and went to Charlotte, there was nothing that I was lacking to go to that next position. So I think getting yourself prepared, meeting a lot of coaches, getting yourself out there, putting your name out there. I think now with social media, you have almost another platform of putting yourself out there. And then, you know, I only work for 2 coaches. I think it's good to work for different coaches. I'm not saying bounce around, but when you get under one guy, you learn a lot from him. Don't be afraid to take it somewhere else and learn a lot from another guy.
Right.
If you want to be that great assistant. And then, you know, you got to get kids. You got to have some savvy and style about you, because kids today, it's different. You know, it's social media. You better be able to get on and get them online and different things like that, because you don't have, with this COVID stuff now, you don't have the in-person like you had.
Right.
And work your tail off, man. If you work, it'll work for you. I can tell you that, because good coaches want hard-working coaches, not coaches that, I mean, Coach Kresse, he was hard-working, spent a lot of hours in the gym, but it showed in his program.
Right.
You know, if you want success, your car probably got to be the last one in the parking lot. More than likely. Every day, your car will probably be the last one in the parking lot. So don't get into coaching if you don't want to spend the time. If you don't want to put a lot of time in and be in that gym and be in that place where, that lab where we used to call it, then this might not be for you. Okay? But if you really want it, and there are opportunities out there for good coaches, work your tail off and stay in the business. I can tell you that. I think I got out of line, but I think at the time, you know, I wanted to make a left turn. But I look at it now, and I'm just as excited about it as I was when I got in. So I'm not saying that the door is shut as far as where I'm at, you know, but because I think players need you. I think players need good coaches and good leaders.
For sure.
And if you have that ability, you know, put it to use, you know. But again, I always use the phrase time and score.
Time and score?
Time and score, okay? Which means that there's a time and score where you need to make the move. Is it the right time and score for you to make the move now? You know, and I just use that analogy because it's something we all can relate to.
That's
you know, you call that time out at the right time.
Right.
Or you might mess up, you know, you might lose it. And if the score is right, you know, you make your move, you make your subs at the right time and score, you know. So I just use that analogy in my life trials here, you know, in my daily experience.
I'm going to steal that one, Coach, if you don't mind.
He made a name for himself as a star for the College of Charleston basketball teams in the mid to late 90s. And now, Jermel president is doing what he can to make sure that the Charleston area kids have a chance to succeed on the court and in life.
So I want to, you know, give some of that back to the community as well. After college and after playing professionally, I started the Day Foundation just to to be that wealth of knowledge to the kids in the community and parents as well.
College of Charleston Hall of Famer Jermel president said he saw a need for this while he was in school. So he founded the nonprofit Day Foundation, and its philosophy for success is based on what he calls his oatmeal recipe.
Let's go and finish together.
Basically teaches the game of basketball, focusing on skills development, nutrition, and education. Not only SAT, ACT type stuff, but education for parents in how to navigate through the different levels of athletics.
You know, playing a former collegiate athlete, former collegiate coach, right? And
Right.
then working out players too, right?
Yeah.
Besides the obvious about players need to get good grades and they need to do
Yeah.
all this other stuff, like and I tell people all the time, halibut. You might not remember this, but
Oh yeah.
you went eating and you was like, I don't eat meat, I eat halibut. I'm like, we was
Right.
laughing. I was laughing my butt off. I'm like, halibut. Like,
Halibut.
you know, halibut, bro.
What
But
is halibut?
what is halibut? But now
Right.
all I eat is fish. I don't eat steak. I don't eat red meat.
Right.
And so
Right.
if I had known the education of nutrition at that time, it would have been so important
Right.
as an athlete.
Oh yeah.
In closing,
Oh yeah.
talk about those extra things that you would tell an athlete that they need to do, because you can see
Right.
from our time coming up, your time coming up,
Yeah.
the game has changed. What are some key
It
things
has.
athletes need to be attentive of when trying to get to the next level?
I'm gonna say this first. It's probably taking care of your body. I'm gonna say that first, and then I'm gonna bring in some of the other things that attribute to that or contribute to that. You know, you want to stay injury free, and if you take care of your body right, you can reduce a lot of those things that will make you miss games or take away from your overall experience. And at my age now, even at a younger age, coming out of the country, you know, we ate what was on the table. Okay, you know, your mom and dad were doing everything they could to just keep you full or keep food on the table. But now a lot of that could be unhealthy. When you look at our generation or, you know, blacks and minorities, we have a lot of underlying conditions, as they say, whether it's diabetes, heart, high blood pressure, heart disease. A lot of those things are very prevalent in our community. So, you know, I contribute a lot to my sister-in-law because she was out west, out in LA, and she brought back the West Coast diet. And once that happened, you know, it excluded meat, you know, and here I am, you know, I had to have meat or it wasn't a meal. But once I started eating the right plant-based foods and I went to more of a plant-based diet, I saw that I didn't need the meat. And then once I alleviated the meat, then a lot of other things started looking better, whether it was my weight or my skin or my energy or, you know, the way I slept. I mean, everything improves when you improve your diet. And then, of course, you got to work out consistently. You know, I'm a runner now. You know, I don't know how I got into it, but I'm a runner for life now until I can't run anymore. I started running with a guy, and I hated to run when I had to run. Now I wake up wondering where I'm running today. You know, that's one of the first thoughts in my head. So I think I've trained my brain or the body to require almost that type of regimen, you know. And they say you are what you eat. There's a lot of truth to that. If you think about it, if you eat wrong, there's no way that you can have a great outcome. It's just not going to happen. Eventually, it catches up with you if you're doing things where there's high sodium or a lot of sugar or something's probably going to creep up on you. Not saying that I'm going to live forever, but I just want to try to live a healthy lifestyle, you know, and the exercise and diet will heavily contribute to that. And then, of course, you know, taking care of your body, trying to get the right proper rest. I've changed. I'm 57 now. So, you know, I'm doing a lot of things a little different than I did at 30. I'm doing a lot of things that I'm doing different than I was at 40. If you want to get to 70 and 80, you better watch the 50s and 60s from what I hear. And and I listen to a lot of the elders. You know, I talk to a lot of people that are dealing with medical issues, and I talk to a lot of people that don't have any. And a lot of them, the ones that don't have that many, you look at what they're putting in their bodies, and it contributes to, you know, that's what it comes down to, you know, just trying to eat healthy and then try to have a form of exercise, you know.
And here's the conflicting part about that. And I wanted to, you know, just touch base, because we as men, right, as athletes, right, we look in the mirror and we want to see that bulk, right?
Right.
When I started eating meat, stopped eating meat and losing weight, I had a tough time mentally dealing with that weight loss. Not only for myself, but for how other people view me, right?
Right,
so
right,
it was a mental,
that's
it was
a good
mental
point.
thing that I had to really figure out and kind of like deal with.
Right. Well, when you think about it though, Mel, lean is in, okay? You can be, you don't have to be so bulky, but you can be strong, okay?
Right.
Now, it also comes down to what profession you're in. If you're a pro football player, I wouldn't advise that, because you're gonna need that meat on the bones. You're gonna probably have to have a different diet if you're a professional football player. If you're a wrestler or something of that nature, then maybe taking the meat out of your diet might not be the best thing.
Or substitute.
But at this point,
substitute for like protein powder and things of that nature. That can increase the more protein in your diet.
Right, because at this point I weigh 212, and I weighed 210 in college, and I rarely get past 215. You know, I try to stay in that range. Now, I don't look the same because my thighs were so big in college that I had to buy pants bigger in the waist to get over my thighs.
Wow.
But now, I don't worry about that.
Right.
You know, I'm looking at trying to just stay healthy. So if you look at me, I might look thin, but I'm toned. Okay, you want tone more than bulk to me at this point, you know, because I don't want to be heavy, because just like a boxer, he has to come in at the right weight. If he doesn't come in at the right weight, he can't fight. So again, if I gain 2-3 pounds, I can tell the difference in my run. I can feel it in the run. So I don't want the pressure on my knees that, you know, coming from weight. So alleviating that weight, because see, a lot of people, when you first start working out, you probably got to lose a little weight before you start doing all that running and all that stuff, or you're going to hurt something else. Right. So you're going to have to probably look at diet. If you had a choice, and I asked some of my friends, we had these conversations, if you had a choice, would you rather eat right or exercise? And it really, if you ask the doctor, he'll probably say eat right. Because if you eat right, you might not need to exercise that much. But if you're exercising and eating wrong, you're still going to encounter the same medical issues probably at some point, down the road. But if you're doing both, then you kind of combating it from both areas. I think, you know, you want energy, man. I think if I had to say one thing I want daily, is I want to get up and feel good and be able to go and move with the energy I need.
For sure.
You know, I don't want to feel like, man, I don't want to do that today. I just got to lay around. No, something's creating that. You know, if you're getting the right rest and you're eating the right things, you should have enough energy. Now, also, I would add in there, take a multi. Everybody should take a multivitamin, you know, because you got to figure you're not getting everything you need every day.
Right.
You know, so if that multivitamin will maybe help compensate for some of the things that you're not getting,
and losing
potentially, you know. So, and then the water, you know, you got to drink water. I think water helps me keep these colds away and stuff in the winter, you know, as I'm in and out of gyms. We have to really be careful, because that's where a lot of the viruses and different germs and things are. I mean, I know people that don't go to the gym in the wintertime. They just shut it all the way down because they don't want to encounter these viruses and different things that are in the gyms. But we just have to have a good, healthy immune system to try to help fight off a lot of these viruses and things because you're going to encounter them. We probably already encountered.
Is a rare living with them. Depending on what level we're already in our body, just depending on how strong the immune system is that it takes over. That's what it is.
Right. And having these underlying medical conditions, probably it doesn't help. I mean, look like the virus almost attack you when you have those underlying conditions. So just trying to stay healthy and, you know, and do the right things and pay attention to your family medical history. You know, try to know as much about that as possible because you are a product of that environment. You know, you're going in you're in the same lane. You know, your DNA, you know, they say the fruit don't fall far from the tree. That's true. But you can change the way the fruit is. You know, my family, we got things on both sides, my mom's side and dad's side. And once I realized that, I said, man, I'm headed the same way unless I change something, you know. So diet was the first thing, and I didn't do it intentionally. I did it. Somebody introduced me to that. Like you say, having that one person that might change your life, that did, you know, because I go home. I remember the first time I told my mom I didn't eat meat. She looked at me like I was crazy. You know what I mean? Right. You know, I couldn't, you know, her fried chicken or her Salisbury steak or the roast beef and rice. I remember them things like it was yesterday.
Right.
But now, you know, my body just don't want them.
I can't even think about them right now. I can't even think about them.
Exactly. You know, I had some pineapple and a little whipped cream last night. That was dessert. You know, and normally that would be a piece of cake or something with some icing on it, or you know, you go to that fruit, man, and put a little something on it, or you know, your beans and your salads and stuff. It's good stuff. You know, Mel, we used to go to Quincy's. I get that big old salad, you know, and let it go. You know, I get me some French fries. Give me 2 orders of French fries, even though they was fried. They was potatoes.
Right.
But I didn't have the meat in it. I was trying to get to a point where I could exclude the meat.
And you just never know. You never know, you know, who's watching you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh man, what you talking about?
Because what that was just said, Coach, like, you know, again, you know, I can speak for other players, but I'm gonna speak for myself. I appreciate you, you know what I'm saying, for that presence, for giving me an opportunity, for looking at me and realizing the talent, and then wanted to pursue that. That's you didn't have to do that. It was tons of players out there. And, I appreciate you for, you know, being that, you know, living on the east side. You can come just talk to you, and you know what I mean, like. That's stuff that people don't forget, and those relationships you never forget. So I appreciate you for being a stand-up guy and being that presence, man. And I speak for a lot of the players that you brought to the
I appreciate it.
And help, you know, bring that legacy there.
Sure, man. I appreciate that, man. And now you guys have to do the same thing.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Right. So and I learned from a lot of people, and you know, I watch people, like you say, you can't stop learning.
Right.
Don't ever stop learning. And you can learn from a lot of people. Man, I can go in the gym and watch some 5-year-olds practice.
For sure.
And I might see something I like. You know, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds or something. It's just something, maybe the way they lined up. Or maybe the way they got in, I don't know, the way they came into something.
Right.
But you can't ever stop learning. Don't ever close your mind to not wanting to pick up something from anybody. You know, anybody can teach you things. So don't ever close your mind to learning and picking up new things. So, but again, man, it was a pleasure talking with you, man. And you got to do it again. Maybe next time we can do something a little live. I'm going to be in and out. I'm down there a lot, but I ain't down there for about a day, you know, so, because I have to try to get back to Charlotte. But eventually, too, you know, we're going to make some decisions on, now that my son's out of school, you know, out of high school. We can make some decisions on what we do next, you know. So, because, you know, I'll never retire. You know, as long as I'm able to help somebody or help a kid, I'll always function somewhere in the academy doing something with basketball, and then I'll do some community stuff. So I'm always going to be present, man, out here trying to help somebody. You know what I mean? Right. So you keep doing what you're doing, man. And keep changing lives. That's important.
I appreciate you, big guy.
Sure, man. Sure, man. All right. Holler at everybody down there, man. Hug your mama for me.
I will.
All right. Be safe, man.
Too.
Sure, man. All right, appreciate it. Peace.
All right, peace. So there it goes, guys. Another one in the books. We thank Coach Dwayne Grace for coming on and giving us that wealth of knowledge, helping us understand what it takes to be great on all levels. Again, thank you for your time. In our next episode, we got student athlete informational, a collage of interviews from nutritionists, college coaches, players, agents. All right, the whole nine, just talking about all those things that players, families, and the community need to do and to be supportive of student athletes. Can't wait to get into it. All right, be right back.
What Jermel is doing with the Day Foundation and the approach he's taking to help develop young athletes, first of all, getting them prepared from the academic standpoint, which, as you know as well as I do, Bobby, that's the most important element, to try to get them to eat healthy, to be able to train properly, to get the proper education, and then hopefully for those who are talented enough to have a chance to move on to perhaps even get a free education by going off to college. But I love what Jermel is doing. It's a wonderful program. Hopefully more people in the community will get behind it, and some of the businesses involved as well to help sponsor this program, because these are the kind of things that every community needs, looking out for the best interest of the youth. The future of this country is in our youth, and everything that we can do to help prepare them better for that is absolutely wonderful. And I can't express adequately enough my admiration and respect for what Jermel is doing, and hopefully he'll get a lot of help from a lot of people.
You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Jermel President, and on Twitter at President Jermel. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast, as I'll be bringing you a new interview every month.
CofC.